Welcome to Commercial Property Deep Dive by Eureka Business Group. In each episode, we break down the essentials of managing commercial properties with expert advice and actionable tips. Let's dive right in.
So you're thinking about retail property in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Well, smart move. It's a hot market. But how do you make sure you get the best return on your investment? That's what we're going to dig into today.
Sounds good.
We've been looking at this article from ABG Commercial Management.
Oh, yeah, they know their stuff.
They're experts in the DFW market.
Yeah.
And they've got some great strategies in here for success. So let's just jump right in. One of the things that really stood out to me is how they emphasize that even though DFW is, really booming right now, it's not like a one-size-fits-all market.
Right. You can't just, plant your flag anywhere and expect the same results.
That's interesting because you always hear about how much DFW is growing.
Yeah.
So I just kind of assumed it was all kind of experiencing the same, boom.
Yeah. I mean, in a way it is. The growth is definitely there. But the thing is, you got to remember, DFW is a really diverse market. You've got these, booming tech hubs with all these, young professionals, and they're looking for very specific things. And then you've got, those more family-centric neighborhoods with completely different needs.
Right. So location is still key, obviously.
Right.
But knowing your customer within those locations becomes even more crucial.
Absolutely. It's like anything else, You wouldn't try to open up a high-end boutique in a college town.
Right.
It's about understanding the demographics, the industries that are driving each area, and also, who's already there. What's the competition like? Are they successful? What are their price points? How's their customer service? It's about finding your niche and offering something unique that's going to really resonate with that local community.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of offering something unique, the article talks about the importance of creating what they call a balanced tenant portfolio, almost like a well-balanced ecosystem.
Oh, yeah, that's a great analogy. I like that. So you need those, those big anchor tenants, the recognizable brands that really draw the crowds. They're kind of like the big trees in the forest. But, just like a forest needs a lot of diversity to really thrive, you also want those smaller, more specialized shops. They create a vibrant experience that people want to be a part of.
Right. So it's not just about filling space. It's about curating an experience. Like I was reading about this development in Frisco, and they've got this incredible bookstore right next to a locally owned coffee shop, and it's always packed. People are just hanging out, browsing, working.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of that synergy.
Right.
People browse the books, they get a coffee, they end up staying longer, and ultimately, they spend more money, and it benefits both of those tenants.
Right.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, that's so smart. It reminds me of those little strip malls that'll have a dry cleaner next to a nail salon. And you can get a bunch of errands done in one place. But this article, they take it a step further. They talk about how important it is to stay ahead of trends, especially with, what they're calling experiential retail.
Oh, yeah. That's huge right now. It's all about creating these memorable experiences. And DFW is actually kind of a leader in this area. You're seeing a surge in things like interactive art installations where you can actually become part of the exhibit, pop-up culinary experiences with celebrity chefs, and even those, what do they call them, rage rooms?
I've heard about those.
Yeah, where you just go and let loose and smash things.
Yeah.
It's definitely not your grandma's shopping mall anymore.
Right, exactly. But I think for someone like me, who tends to be a little more on the practical side, I see this focus on experience, and it almost seems a little frivolous. Is it really that important?
It really is, especially if you want to attract those younger demographics. Think about it, like millennials, Gen Z. They're used to curated experiences. They want something Instagrammable, something shareable, something that makes them feel like they're part of something bigger.
So it's not just about buying product. It's about buying into a lifestyle.
The feeling.
Or a feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked about, understanding the DFW market, creating a dynamic tenant mix. What's the next key ingredient for maximizing ROI on retail property?
Well, probably not a big surprise here, but looks matter a lot.
Right.
Would you want to spend your time and money at a place that looks rundown and uninviting?
Okay, so you're talking about curb appeal.
Yeah.
Well-maintained landscaping, fresh paint, attractive signage, that kind of thing.
Yeah, all that. But it goes beyond just the exterior. Today's shoppers, they expect more. High-speed internet is a must-have. EV charging stations are becoming more and more important. And don't forget about those comfortable common areas where people can just, kind of relax and recharge.
Yeah. I hadn't even considered those things.
She's like creating a little mini oasis for people.
Okay.
And remember, sustainability is not just a buzzword, it's something people genuinely care about. So incorporating those eco-friendly features like energy-efficient lighting, water conservation measures, that can be a huge draw, both for tenants and for customers.
So you're saying that by, prioritizing both those aesthetics and amenities, you're not just making the property look nice, you're actually adding value.
Absolutely.
And potentially increasing your ROI.
100%. It's about creating a space that people actually want to be in, whether they're shopping, working, or just hanging out. And that's really powerful in today's competitive retail landscape.
Right. So we've covered understanding the market, crafting that right tenant mix, and making sure our property's looking good, functioning well. But how do we get people in the door? I have a feeling marketing comes in here. And it's not just about putting up a for lease sign anymore, is it?
No. Those days are long gone. Marketing in the digital age is absolutely essential. And it starts with having a strong online presence. You need to be listed on all those major commercial real estate platforms. Having a professional website with high-quality images, virtual tours, that's critical. People want to be able to picture themselves in the space.
It's like online dating for retail spaces.
Exactly. And just like with dating, social media is key. Think about it. Regular updates, little behind-the-scenes glimpses of new businesses that are coming in, promotions, community involvement. You want to build a following, create a buzz around your property.
So it's not just about posting pretty pictures. It's about, engaging with potential tenants.
Exactly.
Customers telling a story.
Right.
Yeah.
And don't forget the power of, those real-world connections. Sponsoring local events, participating in community activities, even just being present and approachable at those local business gatherings. Those things go a long way.
It's like they say, people do business with people they know, like, and trust.
Exactly. And in a market as dynamic and as competitive as DFW, that personal touch, that can be the thing that really sets you apart.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground already, but there's one aspect of retail property management that, honestly, I'm always a little apprehensive about, and that's lease agreements. They can seem so rigid and intimidating.
Yeah, I get it. But actually, this article, it encourages a really different approach, one that really emphasizes flexibility.
Wait, really? Flexible lease agreements?
Yeah.
Tell me more about that.
Well, it's about moving away from that idea of the lease as like this rigid contract.
Right.
And seeing it more as a partnership where both you and the tenant can actually thrive.
Okay, that's a much more appealing way to think about it.
Right.
So how does that flexibility actually play out in practice?
Well, it could mean offering shorter leases for startups that are still kind of testing the waters. Longer leases for more established brands that bring that stability. You could even include things like options for renewals and expansions as that business grows. It's about understanding each tenant's needs.
Right.
And finding those solutions that work for everybody.
I've also heard about these percentage leases. I'm not entirely clear on how those work.
Oh, yeah. Those are becoming more and more popular, especially in those high-foot traffic areas. So basically, the tenant pays a lower base rent.
Okay.
But then they also share a percentage of their sales with the property owner.
Oh, interesting.
So it incentivizes both parties to work together, to make sure that business is successful.
That's fascinating. So you're both, invested in the business, doing well. What about things like incentives and concessions?
Those can be really strategic tools as well, offering things like, rent-free periods or maybe even contributing to tenant improvements. That can be very attractive, especially to those high-quality tenants, especially in a competitive market like DFW. It's a way to kind of sweeten the deal and attract those best businesses.
This is making me realize that there's a lot more nuance to retail property management than I initially thought. It's not just about collecting rent. It's about creating this whole thriving ecosystem where everybody can succeed.
Exactly. And speaking of thriving ecosystems, I think it's time we talk about the next crucial element for maximizing that ROI, leveraging technology.
Leveraging technology. I like the sound of that. Everything seems to be going digital these days, but I'll admit I can get a little overwhelmed by all the different options out there.
I hear that. It can be a lot. But trust me, embracing technology, it's a game changer for retail property owners.
Okay.
It can really streamline your operations, save you money, and it can even help you attract, a whole new generation of tenants.
All right. You've piqued my interest. Where do we even begin?
Well, one of the most impactful tools out there, property management software. Imagine automating, like, your rent collection, scheduling maintenance, even communicating with tenants, all in one platform.
That sounds like a dream come true.
Yeah.
I'm picturing myself, sipping lemonade on a beach somewhere. Well, the software does all the work. Okay, maybe not quite that idyllic, but
Yeah.
you get the idea. What about data analytics? Is that something that property owners should be paying attention to these days?
Absolutely. Data is a gold mine. And it's becoming more and more accessible, even for, smaller property owners. We're not just talking about spreadsheets here. There are these sophisticated tools that can analyze foot traffic patterns. They can track sales data from your tenants, even give you insights into customer demographics. It's incredible.
So you could see, for example, which entrances are getting the most traffic, which stores are performing the best, even what types of customers are actually frequenting your property.
Exactly. All of that. And that information can be incredibly valuable when you're making those strategic decisions, whether it's, adjusting your marketing campaigns, optimizing your tenant mix, even planning for renovations or expansions down the road.
It's like having a crystal ball.
Mm-hmm.
But instead of magic, it's powered by real data. Sign me up.
Yeah.
Speaking of technology that feels a little bit futuristic, what about those smart building technologies I keep hearing about?
Ah, yes. Smart buildings, they're becoming more and more prevalent, and they can be a huge draw, especially for those tech-savvy tenants.
Okay.
Imagine things like automated lighting systems that adjust based on occupancy, HVAC systems that optimize energy usage, even security features that you can control remotely.
That not only sounds incredibly cool, but I imagine it also saves money on operating costs.
Oh, absolutely. And it's not just about the cost savings. Smart buildings, they can also contribute to your sustainability efforts, which, as we talked about before, it's a big selling point for tenants and customers alike.
So you're telling me I can attract tenants, save money, and be environmentally conscious all at the same time?
That's the beauty of technology.
Technology is amazing.
It is. But even with all these advancements, we can't forget about the importance of good old-fashioned maintenance and upgrades.
Right. As much as I love the idea of a fully automated, self-sustaining property,
Yeah.
I know there's always going to be that need for some hands-on attention.
Exactly. And remember, we're not just talking about aesthetics here, although those are important too. We're talking about protecting your investment and ensuring the long-term value of your property.
Okay, so let's break it down. The article talks about 3 key areas: preventive maintenance, capital improvements, and then compliance and safety. Let's start with preventive maintenance.
All right. So think of preventive maintenance like those regular checkups for your property, just like, you go to the doctor for an annual physical.
Right.
It's about catching those small problems before they turn into these big, expensive headaches.
So we're talking about things like HVAC inspections, checking for roof leaks, making sure the plumbing's in good shape, that sort of thing.
Yep, all that. And don't forget those, less glamorous but equally important tasks like pest control,
Right.
landscaping maintenance, keeping those common areas clean and inviting. It's all about staying ahead of potential problems.
Right.
And just making sure that your tenants, they're happy, they're comfortable in their spaces.
Because at the end of the day, a happy tenant is a long-term tenant.
Right.
Yeah.
And that means stable income, less vacancies.
You got it. And regular preventive maintenance, it can actually extend the lifespan of your building systems, your components, which saves you even more money in the long run.
It's like that old saying, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. Okay. Let's move on to capital improvements. Now, these are the big ticket items, all right?
Yeah. Capital improvements, those are the major upgrades or renovations that can really enhance, the value of your property, the functionality, the appeal. They might require, a larger upfront investment, but they have the potential to pay off big time down the road.
Give me some examples. What kind of things are we talking about here? What falls under that umbrella of capital improvements?
It could be anything, really. Upgrading your HVAC system to a more energy efficient model, maybe a complete renovation of the common areas to create a more modern, inviting atmosphere. Maybe you need to modernize those storefronts to attract a new type of tenant, or perhaps adding an elevator would make your property more accessible, more desirable.
Right. These are definitely big decisions. And I imagine cost can be a major factor in that decision-making process. How do you decide when it's actually worth making that capital improvement?
You have to weigh the cost of that improvement against the potential return on investment. So
Yes.
will it attract those higher paying tenants? Will it allow you to increase rents? Will it significantly increase the overall value of your property.
So it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about, strategically upgrading your property to stay competitive, to attract the best tenants possible.
Exactly. And remember, capital improvements can often be depreciated over time.
Oh.
So you get those tax benefits as well. It's always wise to consult with a financial advisor to really explore all those options.
Good point. Okay, last but not least, let's talk about compliance and safety. This one seems pretty straightforward, but I'm sure there are nuances we should be aware of.
Oh, yeah. You're right. It might seem straightforward, but it's absolutely critical. You have, a legal and an ethical responsibility to provide a safe environment for your tenants, for their customers, for anybody who visits your property. And in a place like DFW with such a diverse population and these ever-evolving regulations, staying on top of compliance can be a little tricky.
So we're talking about things like fire safety systems, proper lighting, clear walkways, accessible entrances, all those things that ensure people can move around safely and comfortably.
Yes. And it goes beyond just the physical aspects as well. You need to be aware of and comply with all those local building codes, regulations, and those can vary, depending on the city and even the specific neighborhood you're in. Things like ADA compliance, those fire safety inspections, even proper signage, it can all make a big difference.
It sounds like there's a lot to keep track of. Are there resources available to help property owners navigate all of this?
Oh, absolutely. There are organizations like the North Texas Commercial Association of Realtors,
Okay.
the City of Dallas Building Inspections Department. They provide some valuable information, some guidance, and of course, consulting with a qualified legal professional who specializes in real estate law, that's always a good idea.
It's like having a whole team of experts in your corner,
Exactly.
helping you stay on top of everything, making sure you're doing things by the book.
Exactly. And remember, it's not just about avoiding those fines, or legal trouble. It's about creating that safe and welcoming environment for everyone. And ultimately, that reflects positively on you as a property owner.
It's all connected, isn't it? The tenant mix, the curb appeal, the amenities, the technology, the maintenance, the safety, all these things work together to create a truly thriving retail destination that attracts both those tenants and the customers.
You're getting it. It's about creating that holistic experience that benefits everyone involved. And that, my friend, is the key to maximizing that ROI on your retail property in DFW.
Wow. You've given me a lot to think about. But before I start, mapping out my dream retail property, there's one more piece of this puzzle I'd love to explore. And that's that tenant-landlord relationship. It's something I've always wondered about. Is it strictly business, or is there room for something more there? I have a feeling you might have some thoughts on this.
You bet I do. That tenant-landlord relationship, it's more important than people realize. It can make or break your success as a property owner. And that's exactly what we're going to dive into next.
We've talked about, the DFW market, the perfect tenant mix, tech tools, even sprucing up the property itself. But now I'm going to get into something that's always made me kind of curious. It's that whole tenant-landlord dynamic.
Yeah, it's an area I think a lot of people just kind of overlook. But it can really make or break your success as a property owner. Think about it. You could have the most amazing property, a lineup of dream tenants, all the latest tech. But if you don't have those solid relationships with your tenants, they can all kind of fall apart.
Okay, so it's not just about, signing the leases and collecting the rent. There's an actual, relationship building aspect to this.
Yeah.
What does that look like in the real world?
Well, communication is key, for starters.
Right.
And I don't just mean sending out rent reminders. It's about clear, consistent, open communication where your tenants really feel heard, understood, valued. You got to be responsive to their needs, their concerns, not just treating them like a number on a spreadsheet.
So more like a partnership than just a landlord-tenant transaction.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, their success is your success. A vacant storefront, that helps no one.
That makes a lot of sense. But how do you actually foster that kind of partnership? It's easy to say build a relationship, but what are some tangible steps a property owner can actually take?
Be proactive. Don't wait for a problem to crop up. Check in with your tenants regularly. See how their business is doing. Ask if there's anything you can do to support them. Even those small gestures, they can go a long way.
Like what? Give me an example.
Imagine a new bakery just opened in your property. You could pop in with a little congratulations card, maybe a little gift basket from, the neighboring businesses. Or let's say a tenant's going through a rough patch. A simple, how are things going? It shows that you care. You're not just there for the rent check.
Right. It's like you're building a mini community within the property itself.
Exactly. And you know what? Happy tenants, they're less likely to move out, which means less turnover for you. Saves you time and money in the long run. Plus, word gets around. Other businesses see that you're invested in your tenant's success, and that makes your property even more desirable.
Right. But let's be real, conflicts are bound to happen in any relationship. How do you handle those tricky situations when a dispute arises?
Well, that's where that, strong communication really comes into play. Listen to your tenants' concerns with genuine empathy. Try to really understand their perspective, even if you don't necessarily agree.
So it's about finding a solution that benefits both sides.
Yeah.
Not just, laying down the law because you're the landlord.
Exactly. Be fair, be reasonable, be willing to compromise when it makes sense. And, if things really hit a wall, don't hesitate to bring in, a mediator or seek legal counsel just to make sure things are handled fairly and professionally.
I'm starting to see how these seemingly small things can really have a huge impact on the overall success of a retail property. It's not just about the bricks and mortar. It's about building a community.
You got it. And remember, the best property owners, the ones who really thrive, they're the ones who understand that fostering those strong tenant relationships, it's not just good business. It's also just the right thing to do.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. I feel like I could go out and buy a property tomorrow.
Well, maybe not tomorrow, but you're definitely well on your way to making those informed decisions.
All right.
Remember, it's a journey, not a sprint. Stay curious, keep learning, and don't be afraid to reach out for some expert guidance along the way.
Great advice. And to all our listeners out there, if this deep dive has sparked your interest in retail property in DFW, don't just dream about it. Do something. Research those neighborhoods, connect with the local experts, and remember, success comes from careful planning, smart strategies, and building those all-important relationships.
Well said. And until next time, happy investing.
Thanks for tuning in to Commercial Property Deep Dive by Eureka Business Group. We hope you enjoyed today's insights. Don't forget to subscribe for more expert tips and real stories to help you navigate the world of commercial property management. Until next time, keep thriving.